Good morning, everyone. It's a great honor for me to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to share some of the best practices we use into catching APTs and some of the methods we do use for threat research. My name is Costin Raiu. I am the director of the Global Research and Analysis team at Kaspersky Lab. And I've been in this business for about 25 years, maybe something like this. And with Kaspersky for about 17 years. A few words about the team that I lead. I'm not selling you anything. This is just, let's say, what we do. The Global Research and Analysis team at Kaspersky Lab focuses on the most, let's say, sophisticated kind of threats out there. So what we usually do is pretty much, let's say, what people call threat intelligence, research, innovation leadership. And our focus are, let's say, the most sophisticated kinds of threats that our company sees. So I'll give you an example. Every day we receive about 500,000 malware samples. From those 500,000 malware samples, maybe, let's say, then less than 50 are interesting for me and my team. The other, 400, 1,000, 900, 900, and so on, they're not necessarily interesting to us. What is interesting to us are the most sophisticated ones. You may, let's say, be familiar with some of the research we have pushed during the last years. How many people, let's say, have heard about equation? Okay, a few people. Stuxnet? Okay, more people. There's a few other things that we have discovered and published about. Maybe you've heard about Flame, about Regin, about Project Sauron, and so on. So today I want to share with you some of the tricks and some of the practices that we use to discover these high-end cyber espionage campaigns. But first I want to ask you a question. What is, in your opinion, the most significant discovery that changed the fate of humanity during the last, let's say, I don't know, 50 years? During the last 50 years, what is the most significant discovery, in your opinion? So let's actually try to see by a raise of hands, how many people think that the discovery of the atom was the most significant discovery for the human race? Okay, one guy, a few guys. All right. How many people think that antibiotics were the most significant discovery? A few more. Okay. Without antibiotics, everybody gets sick, and we have all sorts of very bad sicknesses that we cannot treat. What about the semiconductors? We're all here because of semiconductors, right? And how many people think that it's none of the above? Okay. So actually I will tell you that in my opinion, one of the perhaps the most significant discovery, or let's say, are the dinosaurs. And not necessarily the dinosaurs, but oil. Without oil, we wouldn't be, let's say, where we are nowadays, because pretty much everything is made of oil. Plastic is made of oil. Our cars, unfortunately, still work based on oil. So I believe that oil is one of the most significant things which changed the humanity, and of course we have to thank the dinosaurs for that, because without dinosaurs we wouldn't have oil nowadays. And of course this is a story of paleontology. As I became interested into how people, hunt for dinosaur bones, I became interested in paleontology. So let me tell you the strange story of Grzegorz Brz. Let's call him George. So let me tell you the strange story of my friend George, who is an amateur paleontologist. So one day we met, and George told me, I went into vacation and I went to Loch Ness, and one night I think I saw the monster in the Loch Ness. And I said, but George, are you absolutely sure that that was a monster? He said, absolutely, I'm absolutely sure that was a monster. How can you tell? He said, well, if you look at the lake, you can see like, 3 little humps. Maybe that's a head. And I'm pretty sure that those belong to the monster. And I said, but are you sure? Maybe there are like some just stones. How can you actually be sure that that's actually the true monster in the lake? And to be honest, this is a kind of mistake that a lot of people make. When they see like the humps, then they believe they found a monster, but in reality, it's not a monster, but it may be something else. So let me show you, let's say, a bit why APT research, which is what we do mostly, is pretty much like paleontology. So this is an example of an APT that we discovered some time ago. We called Regin. And to be honest, we started looking into Regin maybe around, I think, 2008, 2009. And we only published about Regin in 2014. So it took us about 6 years to research this threat. And many people, when we published our research, came to me and they said, so you knew for 6 years and you didn't say anything to us. Why did you do so? And maybe you are keeping it secret for, like, say, some evil reason. And the reason is pretty simple. So if you look at the skeleton of Regin, let's call it the skeleton of Regin, you see that we were able to find some samples from 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, a very few samples. One sample from 2003 and one sample from 1999. And you see there's a lot of missing bones. How can you say that you found a dinosaur and a monster if you don't have all the bones? You can still get an idea of what that looks like, of course, but you cannot be 100% sure what it was. So what we do on a regular basis when we find one of these bones, and I can tell you that we find this kind of bones all the time, but nobody knows for sure what are those bones and what are they a part of. And what we do is we add detection, we try to collect more of those bones, we try to understand how the dinosaur looks like, lateral movement, how the attackers worked, what tools they were using. We're trying to map the command and control infrastructure to find more of their domains, and slowly, you know, we try to paint the full image of how the monster looks like. And in the end, when we are sure that we have seen everything, that's when we write the report, and that is when we publish this report. All right, so today I want to tell you guys 3 detective stories. And these 3 detective stories, each one of them is significant in some way. The first detective story is basically a story of a lot of gold, you know, gold beyond measure and beyond sorrow. And actually it's not necessarily about gold, but it's actually a story of silver. If you're familiar with the zerodium, how many people are familiar with zerodium? Okay. I see someone there who sells 0 days to Zerodium. So Zerodium is a company which purchases 0 days, and this is one of their price lists. I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but they're paying a lot of money for 0 days. So for instance, if you have a 0 day that can fully own iOS, or an Apple iPhone, let's say from a browser exploit all the way to the kernel, so that usually includes about 3 exploits. A remote code execution in the browser, a sandbox escape, and another for a kernel, they can pay up to $1.5 million for that. So it's actually quite easy. If you want to get rich, all you have to do is to find one set of exploits for iOS and just sell it to Zerodium and to repeat it like a couple of times and you're all set. Of course, you know that this is very difficult. And at the same time, you can also see that they're paying, let's say, $50,000 for a Flash player exploit, and so on and so on. So this gives you an idea of how much money actually exists in this business of 0 days. Now there was an interesting story published in July 2015, and this story published for Ars Technica, it talk about the story of Hacking Team and how Hacking Team got hacked, and basically how a Russian hacker made $45,000 selling a Flash 0 day to Hacking Team. So I became interested in this story because the Hacking Team incident is also very interesting. And this is what they say in the article. They have a screenshot and they say, basically this guy wrote an email in October 2013 to Hacking Team, and he said, is your company interested in buying 0 days? You know, basically vulnerabilities with remote code execution for the latest version of Flash Player, Silverlight, Safari, and all the exploits allow to embed and remote execute payloads with the modern bypassing techniques like SLR, DEP, which is, of course, if you're in this business, you know that this is pure gold. It's like good stuff. So what happens, of course, the CEO of hacking team, David Vincenzetti, he replies immediately. He says, absolutely. Like, would you please elaborate your offer? What can you sell us? So this guy, you know, he goes ahead and he sells his Flash 0 Day to hacking team, and this is the invoice. You can see it's for $39,000. And after he gets the money, he immediately, like a very good salesman, he writes another email to hacking team, and he says, and okay, thank you very much for your business. Now I want to give you guys a discount. I'll give you a $5,000 discount if you buy again from me. And the second time you buy from me, I'll give you a discount of $10,000. And here it says, I recommend the Fresh 0 Day for iOS. Remember the $1.5 million one. Or one of my old Silverlight exploits, which was written 2.5 years ago and has all the chances to survive. So when I saw this email about the Silverlight exploit that was written 2.5 years ago, basically for him, and has all the chances to survive, this was pretty much my reaction. Like, there is a 2.5 years Silverlight 0 Day out there in the wild, and nobody has found it. So, by the way, what is Silverlight? How many people know what is Silverlight? Fantastic. I hope that because you know what it is, you don't use it. And I was hoping the same, but like, look at this. This is a Windows update from one of my computers, which has the latest version of Windows 7. And what you see there is like whenever you try to update, for some unknown reason, Microsoft offers to install Microsoft Silverlight in my computer. Even if I don't have it installed, I don't want it, but they still offer to install Silverlight. And what is important to say is that Silverlight has already been deprecated by Microsoft, so there's no more updates for Silverlight. So despite the fact that it's not used anymore, you might still have it, let's say by accident, and not even know that you have it in your computer. All right, so we thought about how can we find this Silverlight 0 Day. And one of the ideas which got us back to Yara, and how many people familiar with Yara? A few of you. Yara is a kind of a programming language written by Victor Manuel Alvarez, who's there in the photo, the handsome guy. You can follow him on Twitter. It's a kind of a programming language which allows you to define complex regular expression and, let's say, definitions to catch pretty much anything. So you can use this as a very enhanced kind of a grep, if you want. And this has become one of the standard malware hunting languages in our business. Now, I thought, how can I find this 0 Day of Vitaly Toropov? And one idea, of course, was what if I Google it? Maybe I get lucky. By the way, if I go to a Microsoft conference, I use Bing. So I say, how do I Bing it? But today I can say, how can I Google it? And it just like, I thought, what if I just search for Vitaly Toropov and Silverlight, which I did back then. And like the second and the third hit, or if you use Bing, the 7th and the 8th, these they say files from Vitaly Toropov on Packetstorm in November 2013 and exploits. So what are these, by the way? I went there, I looked at the files, and I found that actually Vitaly Toropov created a couple of Silverlight exploits in November 2013. They were not 0 days, but he implemented some exploits for bugs that Microsoft found. And as I looked into his source code, I noticed something, let's say, that was specific to his code. He really liked to throw these exceptions, like whenever his exploit fails, he can say can't allocate UMS after buff, or he can say can't find payload address. So he was throwing all these exceptions in his exploits. So I thought, what about, like, imagine if he sells one of these exploits with debug information to a customer. what if the customer forgets to remove these debug messages? That will be very, let's say, beneficial to me. So what I did, this is a Yara rule that I wrote for Vitaly Toropov's exploits. As you can see, it's a pretty simple thing. That's basically what we have there. 4 strings, can't find payload, can't allocate UMS after buff, start. And this rule will trigger if 2 of these strings are detected. So when I created this rule, I was pretty confident. I was like super confident that we'll find a 0 day. And this was about in July of 2015. So then I waited. I waited like a day, then I waited for a week, and I waited for a month, and nothing happened. And I waited for a couple of months, and I was like very depressed that I didn't find anything with my Yara rule. And actually several months have passed, and I can tell you, I forgot about this story. So I completely forgot about it. So several months later, somewhere in Laos, like somewhere in November, someone was attacked using a Silverlight exploit. And the moment that he was attacked with that Silverlight exploit, our products detected exactly those strings that I was searching for. So you see there, the first hit was can't find the payload address, and the other one was can't allocate UMS after buff. And this is just a screenshot from the compiled Silverlight code. So at first I thought, okay, I need to check, is it a 0 day, or is it maybe just someone took Vitaly Toropov's old exploit and compiled it? And then I took this exploit, I managed to find a sample, we reported it to Microsoft, and Microsoft confirmed that this was a 0 day. And they put like a nice thank you note for discovering this 0 day. Now, the question, of course, was this the 0 day that Vitaly Toropov was trying to sell to Hacking Team, the one that he said it's 2.5 years old? I think that we will never know. A bit later, after our discovery, Vitaly Toropov gave an interview to Kim Zetter from Wired, and Kim Zetter asked Vitaly, hey Vitaly, did Kaspersky find your 0 day, the one that you are trying to sell to Hacking Team? So he said, how can I check? She said, take a look at their blog post. So after Vitaly looked at our blogs, he said, nah, that's not mine. So we found one, but I don't think that it was his. But anyways, I believe that it was a good catch from our side. All right, this was the first story, how Yara helped us to find the 0 day. The second story that I want to tell you is about how we hunted for a threat actor called Wild Neutron. How many people have heard about Wild Neutron? Okay, not so many. So Wild Neutron is, let's say, a particularly interesting APT group. They have targets in pretty much, let's say, all the major sectors. Let's say they have been known to attack law firms, Bitcoin companies. How many people have Bitcoins? I hope you all have Bitcoins purchased when they were $1 a piece, and now you're all rich. Not like me. So Wild Neutron is a very interesting group because they're going, let's say, for a lot of different kind of targets. The only, let's say, unusual thing, they don't go for governments. So whenever we see a sophisticated threat actors, usually this actor, they target governments. But these guys, they target everything but governments, pretty much. So healthcare company, individual users, real estate, investment companies, they have a very interesting profile. Other names that, let's say, they have been known by, Pumpkin, Butterfly, Carbon, and these guys became really famous in 2013 when they successfully managed to infect Microsoft, Apple, Twitter, and Facebook. And the reason they were able to do that because they had access to a Java 0 day, and they used that Java 0 day to infect all these big companies. We believe that they use actually at least 2 0 days throughout the years, and maybe as many as 3 0 days. And there was a story just a couple of days ago, by the way, in which they there was, I think, on Reuters, and they said that Wild Neutron, when they hacked into Microsoft, let's say the only thing they cared about, they went for the Microsoft 0 days database. So whenever you report a bug to Microsoft, they put it into this database. So what Wild Neutron did when they got inside Microsoft, obviously they went straight for this database and they downloaded the entire database. And Microsoft didn't disclose a breach, and it was only known, I think, maybe 2 days ago. If you search the news for Wild Neutron, you'll find it. They have ability to sign their malware with stolen certificates. So for instance, they have malware signed by Acer, and they have multi-platform for Windows, Mac, Linux, and I think that they are masters of false flags. If you want to learn more, both Symantec and us, we have published about Wild Neutron, and there's a guy called Eric Roman who has an excellent blog post about JRebot. So let me tell you a few unusual things about Wild Neutrons. So as I said, they target pretty much everybody except governments. And when I say everybody, if we go back to 2012, 2013, Wild Neutron did a waterhole attack. So in this waterhole attack, they hacked a couple of websites on the internet, and they put a small iframe there that redirected all the visitors to one of their exploitation servers. So what did they hack? They hacked iPhone Dev SDK, which was basically the entrance point for Apple, because maybe some Apple guys were visiting this site. They also hacked fedoraforum.org, Expat Forum, which is a kind of a site for expats. MyGSM India is a bit strange, Samdroid for Android users in Saudi Arabia. Emirates, Mac, there's Mac users in the United Arab Emirates. Forums, King DVB, that's basically satellite users. And now the most unusual ones they hacked were FlexiSpy and Ansar1.info. If you're like on your phones now, don't go to Ansar1.info. That's not a good place to be, by the way, because it's a site of the Ansar al-Mujahideen, which is a jihadist forum. So you know what happens if you access these kind of websites without a VPN. People get funny ideas about you. So you don't want to go there. But it's interesting that these guys hacked the Ansar forum and they waterholed. Basically, they wanted to infect people who visit this forum. Why would they do that? Only, I think, maybe if they were doing some kind of a contract and one of their customers said, we want to know who are the users on this Ansar al-Mujahideen forum. Here's another example. In 2015, we caught the Wild Neutron guys target a Bitcoin company. So what happened there is a bit unclear to us. We know that one of the people visited this website that is called CryptoMag Media Source CH, and mediasource.ch is a legitimate website, but the CryptoMag subdomain is malicious. So what they did here, they hacked these DNS records of mediasource.ch and they added this domain on top of it, which pointed to their malicious exploitation kit. So that resulted in a couple of redirections, as you can see, MSIE9 HTML5, and then there's like 2 flash files being downloaded, and after the flash files, there's background JPEG, and background JPEG was actually one of their malware samples. So exactly what was it? Was it a 0-day? We don't know for sure. So that machine that was infected by this exploitation chain was not fully patched as far as we know. So maybe it was not a 0-day. But if you look, by the way, at CryptoMag Media Source CH, and this is a passive DNS information, you see that it points to the IP address 66.55.133.89, and there's a bunch of other sites hosted on the same IP address. And appcloudprotect.eu, that's a command and control server of Wild Neutron, the same as SSL Cloud Protect. And there was another one, secure.pdf-info.com. And that one is the same style as Media Source, I guess. PDF Info is a legitimate site, but secure. That is not their website. So they also got hacked. And we suspect that that was used in another targeted attack by the Wild Neutron guys. All right, so what is also interesting from these guys is the malware they used, which is called JRebot. It had an internal version number, and they would increase this version number constantly. So for instance, in 2012, they were using version 11,000 and 12,000. Then they moved to version 13,000 in 2013, 14,000. And the last version that we have seen from October 2014, that was version 16,000. And we have not seen any versions of this backdoor after October 2013. They also have a very cool tool which they use when they have to steal a lot of data. So whenever they need to steal large, like gigabytes of data, they deploy this tool. And this is a modified SSH client which has a hard-coded private key inside. So it handshakes with their command and control servers, and they do SSH on port 443, and they use it to upload gigabytes of data. And they also have versions of that for OS X, by the way. And they were also able to steal us a signing certificate from Acer. We contacted Acer, by the way. It was very hard, trust me. So we tried to find a security contact in Apple like for a long time. And finally we found someone and said to this guy, we think that you guys were compromised and your signing certificates were stolen by the Wild Neutron guys. And he said something like, yes, we know, it's okay. How can it be okay? I cannot understand how it can be okay. Right. Funny. Like during one incident that we were doing, we found a very interesting file. This was a Wild Neutron module that used an unusual persistence mechanism. So this was an SSP plugin. So in Windows, it's actually possible to extend the authentication scheme with plugins. So let's say if you want to do all this eye-based authentication or fingerprint or whatever, smell-based authentication, all you need is like a special sensor, smell sensor. And if recognizes you, you just say yes, and you write it as a plugin for SSP, and then basically it will extend the local security authority to accept you. So we found this plugin in a very interesting case, by the way. We were looking at this incident, and we found that the victim was a company that was involved into investments. So we managed to get in touch with them, and then we did incident response, and we found a guy who was infected in the company. So we talked to him, and basically, let's say that he's a very rich man, not rich like the guys with the bitcoins here, but like really rich man. And we asked him like, okay, your laptop, this is your laptop, it got infected on this particular date. Can you tell us, do you remember what were you doing on that date? And he says, I don't remember, but I can check my agenda. So he takes out the agenda, he's looking, says, it's easy. It couldn't have happened because on this date I was in vacation. I say, where were you in vacation? He says, I was on my yacht, on the Mediterranean, whatever, enjoying the sun. I said, fantastic, where was your laptop? He said, well, my laptop was in my home, of course. I said, who was in your home at 3 a.m. in the morning when your laptop got infected? And then he paused and said, okay, security guards, the cook, maybe some of the maids. So we believe that these guys actually succeeded. They found a way to break into his home, and they infected his laptop physically, through physical access at 3 a.m. in the morning. So that he was probably very interesting for these guys. The way this plugin works, it has a special client which allows it to connect to the backdoor. And the one that we found was version 1.3b, but we also found later some more advanced versions. And it has pretty much all the functionality that you expect from this kind of backdoors. It can securely delete files, you can pull files from the machine, and so on and so forth. And we were also able to find a client for that. And you see that it has actually quite nice help. Like this is a tool that the attackers use. Why they have their own internal help, I don't know. But who knows, like it's a good practice, like a good quality, let's say, to have a help page. And that's version 1.5, by the way. We don't have version 1.5 of the backdoor, but they're compatible anyways. We also found another one, like a big media, let's say, entity, magazine from France was compromised, and the Wild Neutron guys, they put a backdoor on their IIS server. And this backdoor was very interesting because it supported a number of commands. And all the commands, they start with the string APT2. So we thought that was kind of funny. Because this was around the time when Mandiant published the APT1 report, if you remember it. So we thought that these guys, they're probably trying to suggest that they are like a little bit more cool than APT1. They're like APT2. Yeah, so this also has like a number of functions. It can download files, it can run commands remotely, open a file for reading, compute the hash of the file, create pipes and so on. So they have, let's say, a pretty advanced arsenal of tools. Now, of course, whenever we talk about APTs, people come and say, like, this is like boring. Tell us, who are they? Who are these guys? What are their names? And of course, the answer is not that easy. But nevertheless, in this case of wild neutron, nobody has been able to successfully identify who they are. And I remember a story that I heard that whenever Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, and Twitter were hacked by wild neutron, a very powerful three-letter agency became interested. And they brought everybody together and said, we need to do something. Like, how is it possible there are some hackers out there and we don't know about them? So they did some research and they found a command and control server of wild neutron in Europe. And through their, let's say, omnipotent skills, they saw that the operators of that command and control server were connecting from China. So they went further, they hacked those guys in China, and they discovered that those guys were APT developers. So they were doing APT tools development, who were also infected by wild neutron and used as a proxy to access the command and control servers. And nobody was ever able to find who was using it as a proxy, basically. So they're kind of masters of deception and false flags. In one of their malwares, they have this string, la revedere, which pretty much, whenever they stop, they cancel a connection. They say la revedere, which means goodbye in Romanian. And they have uspešno. Anybody knows what is uspešno? Success, something like this. I think it's maybe Polish or Russian word, which means success. So there's another word which was dropped right there, suggesting maybe they're Polish or Russian. I found another one, and I'll let you guys judge. I'm not saying it's attribution or it's a false flag, but I will let you guys draw your own conclusions. So one of the command and control servers of wild neutron, DDoS Protect EU, was registered by a guy called Thomas Zbroja at Yandex.com. And actually, I found a guy, if you do a bit of searching on LinkedIn, you can find a guy called Thomas Broja, who is an investment banker from Poland. So, is it a false flag? Is it like the true attribution? I don't know. But what is funny is that this guy studied at the Silesian University of Sciences, and the account was created from an IP address at the Silesian University of Sciences. So it can very well be another false flag, just like the one with the Chinese APT developers. But of course, we have no way of knowing. Here's another example. One of the command and control domains, liveanalytics.org, was hosted for some time on 66962525, which belongs to a company in Seattle called Backlog Capital. So if you go to Backlog Capital, by the way, they deleted their website after my previous speech. I don't know if it has connection or not. But they say Backlog Capital was created to fuel the growth and success, blah, blah, blah. Backlog Capital understands a hidden value in high-tech companies that traditional bankers are unwilling to evaluate. So how do they understand the hidden value? That's a good question. So again, we have like some kind of connection here with investment bankers, if you remember Thomas Broja. And this is a CEO of Backlog Capital, J.W. Ray. Basically, he stopped tweeting in September 2012, and his account got hacked and started pumping bad words and spam, basically. So, is it like an elaborate hack? Did they manage to hack this company and they're using it as a kind of deflection? Or is it like truly related to these guys? We don't know. So here's more fun. Do you remember the Cloud Protect EU domain that I showed? This one was registered by a guy called Papalopos Demetrio. I asked some of my Greek friends, by the way, anybody here speaking Greek? Okay, is that like a Greek name? Papalopos? Not really, no. So I think it's kind of Greek-sounding name, but it's a fake name. So the same guys, they registered with this Papalopos Demetrio identity, two other domains, Cryptor.ch and Tiger Healthcare. And now this is interesting. The most fun of them is Cryptor.ch. Cryptor.ch was created as a kind of an investment platform for Bitcoin. So if you had Bitcoins, you could go there, put some Bitcoins, and then you get like a small interest every day. So they say like, sure, give us your Bitcoins, and we will pay you interest. So it's a good way to multiply your Bitcoins. And then some people started talking on bitcointalk.org forums, like beware of these guys. Like I put some money and I never got my money back, so be very careful because they're stealing your money. And let's say, be especially afraid of this guy called Conan Sarin. In Conan Sarin, he has a LinkedIn profile, claims to be the lead development of the Zetas Coin mobile payment. And this is like interesting. How many people heard about Zetas Coin? It's amazing, because I didn't hear about Zetas Coin before this story. However, it appears that this Zetas Coin was one of the most elaborate scams, cryptocurrency scams of all times. So what happened there, basically in December 2013, they announced they were working with the Safaricom M-Pesa to enable mobile payments by Zetas Coins. So that would have actually made the Zetas Coin more valuable than Bitcoin back then, of course. And in April 2014, Conan Sarin, he claimed to be in Kenya to integrate it. And then the Zetas Coin market capitalization peaked $15 million. And that was basically in December 2014. The fraud was exposed, it was all fake, and the value of Zetas Coin crashed, and now I think it's worth 0.0 something dollars. And there's like a very good analysis of all this story at this address that you can read if you want. But basically people were wondering who did this huge scam, who did the Zetas Coin scam. And they found one guy nicknamed the Chef. And the Chef was super active in this Zetas Coin community. He's the guy who created the logo for Zetas Coin. And he was like always, let's say, pushing, and he was, let's say, very interesting in the way he was communicating. So for instance, he would talk to people on Skype, but he would also use Threema. How many people use Threema here? Like Threema is, like some people said, it's basically an encrypted communication platform for, let's say, two kinds of people. Those who are concerned about their privacy and terrorists. So it's actually that good because it cannot be cracked. And he also used Wicker, Google Chat, Slack Chats, DMs, Facebooks, and so on and so on. And he was telling people that his name was Max. And what is interesting, he made a mistake, actually, but we don't know if he made a mistake, but you'll see what I mean. When he created this Zetas Coin logo, he forgot. So not necessarily maybe forgot, but when you create an Adobe PostScript PSD file, maybe you didn't know that Adobe will save the location of that file inside. And the location was user Samuel Young, desktop, and so on, obviously. So that means that the guy who was doing the logo's name was Samuel Young. And I found the guy, I found Samuel Young. He has a website called Samuel Young Designs. That's the guy. He doesn't look like the mastermind, evil mastermind, who could be behind Wild Neutron and all their attacks, basically. And that's the Zetas Coin logo on the right side. So my opinion is that actually the Chef purchased the logo from Samuel Young, but he claimed to the people that he developed it. So what about the Tiger Healthcare website, the other one that I mentioned? So this is interesting. Tigerhealthcare.ch is a kind of a fake-looking website. They say private equity, high impact, high yield healthcare investments. So they're investing into healthcare and getting a lot of money out. However, on the right side you see the true tigerhealthcare.com, which claim $170 billion in aggregates. I find it unbelievable. It's a huge amount, and I don't think that's true either. So I'm not entirely sure if they created a Tiger Healthcare as a scam for the bigger one, or if they're truly connected. Again, I leave you guys to draw your own conclusions about who is who in this story and who are the people behind this. But if you kind of, let's say, draw a line of everything we have found, it's obvious that these guys have a kind of a nexus toward investment bankers. Remember Thomas Broja? Remember the guy, the super rich guy that I mentioned? J.W. Ray and Backlog Capital. So they have a nexus. And they have the knowledge to take advantage of things such as IPOs. So for instance, we know that they hacked a company right before it was going to have an IPO. And like, I'll give you an example. In my case, if you tell me in advance that whatever company is going to have an IPO and you tell me the price, I'm clueless. I have no idea how to get rich from that information. But these guys, obviously, they know how to take advantage of such information. And of course, healthcare is strongly related to investments. We found them infecting a bunch of companies in the healthcare sectors. And they're also very interested in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Zetas Coin attacks. They also hacked and waterholed the FlexiSpy forums, and FlexiSpy is actually another spyware tool. So we were wondering maybe those were competitors for them. And finally, they hacked these jihadist forums and the satellite forums. Maybe that was a kind of a contract. So in this story of Wild Neutron, there's a lot of unknowns. But this is pretty much how the, let's say, the big picture looks like. They have all a nexus towards investments, mergers and acquisitions, IPOs, and they have the ability to get rich from such information. All right, so finding cyber dinosaur bones. Now, I think that the greatest thing in this world is that anybody can do it. So if you want to do it, you can also do this. All you have to do is to learn Yara, and a lot of people have come to me and said, we want to learn a new programming language. What is it that you use nowadays? Do you use, I don't know, Python, or do you still use Perl? And I tell everybody, you know, I still use Yara and AWK most of the time. So with Yara, you can do like a lot of things. If there's one language that you can learn nowadays to improve your skills, I recommend you guys to learn Yara. And to be honest, what is cool that Yara is now already used in OS X. So OS X has a built-in antivirus that leverages Yara rules. So I asked Windows, I actually asked Microsoft, what about Windows? When do you guys plan to integrate it into Windows? So also remember that there's a lot of people saying there that you know, the offense is the best defense, but in my opinion, like defense is more important. And we put a lot of accent on hacking others, but we forget sometimes to protect our own networks. And basically, how did the offense is the best defense help your preferred victim there? So you can put like whatever, Equifax, or the Security Exchange Commissions, or whatever the latest hacking victim was there. So remember that I said that I'll show you 3 detective stories. Those were the first 2. Here's the third story. So Toropov basically said, I'll give you a discount, guys, of $5,000 and $10,000 for the next purchases. And he said, I can recommend you the Silverlight exploit, which we found, or at least we found one. But basically, what about the 0 day for iOS? So what about the $1.5 million 0 day that Vitaly Toropov was trying to sell to hacking team? So if you guys want to get rich, you have to do just 2 things, very easy. 1, you need to learn Yara. 2, find the $1.5 million 0 day. Thank you very much.